down the front. Okay, lovely little quotation here. Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing it's stupid. Okay, so it's just something to think about, okay, because we are all different, we all have different strengths and different weaknesses, so we're not all going to be readers, we're not all going to be writers, we're all going to be something though. Okay, I have to shift like this. Okay, so identification, we're looking at dyslexia today, really. First step is in identifying that children may have language learning difficulties or differences, including dyslexia. And it's to notice those making poor progress, which is what we've been doing, in comparison with their typically normally developing peers. Okay, that's taken from the Rose Report. Policy. Obviously, we have to become dyslexia friendly or to achieve this award, we have to embed lots of evidence into lots of different areas within the school. And the first one, obviously, is that we have now to embed this within our policy, within the SEN policy, that we are dyslexia friendly and we are aware and we do screening, etc., etc. Okay, so yeah, we have to have a staff shared understanding of what dyslexia actually is, so the Rose definition, and we have done a whole school, and we do have a TRC, so awareness is spreading. A clear graduated response to identification and support at universal first quality teaching levels, targeted on specialist levels, which is something that we've been doing. We've been picking students up, we've been assessing them, we've been targeting, focusing them, we've been putting back in and tracking progress, and we do have evidence of that actual individual attention and strategies has been working. We haven't had any negatives across the school so far. Demonstrating that a shared understanding has been ratified. Well, we're not quite there yet because we need to have that right across the school and right across every department. All right? So it's a shame there's not more from different departments here today. Okay, so this is about us. This is our Dyslexia Aware School Award. This is what we're working towards. And it is a whole school award, and I reiterate that it is a whole school award. It's not just some departments. Focused on raising whole school awareness and understanding of the barriers that there are to learning for dyslexic learners within our classrooms. And, beg your pardon, and the best ways that we need to have to support these. The course I've done, DASA requirements reflect the requirements of the new COP, which we know also. Generally accepted that good teaching and learning for dyslexic students is good practice for all learners, and that's something really that I want to talk about as well tonight. Brief look. So definition, I've just put up there because it's Greek and it's relevant to me. It's obviously come from Greek, I speak Greek. So the dys bit means difficulty, and the lexis is is a Greek for word or language. Okay, so it's difficulty word. Definition, best described as a combination of abilities and difficulties which affect the learning process. Is it possible to stop it doing that, Simon? I put it on timer, didn't I?
No.
Right, okay. Reading, writing, language, numeracy. So those are the kind of 4 areas. Accompanying weaknesses that may be identified in the speed of processing. Okay, so it's ability to actually absorb it, take it in, and recap on it, or write it down. Short-term memory, auditory, visual, sequencing, spoken word, and motor skills. So organisation as well. Dyslexia occurs despite normal intellectual ability and conventional teaching. It is independent of socio-economic and language background. So it's something that is inherited too. It's genetic. So these are the myths, so I want to dispel those. Dyslexia is not a disease. It can't be cured. People don't grow out of dyslexia. They may develop coping strategies. I have, because I'm very dyslexic. I might be slow at some things, but maybe better at others. Dyslexia is not a sign of being thick, nor of having above average intelligence either. Many dyslexic people have outstanding talents in art, architecture, athletics, drama, electronics, engineering, graphics, music, so they're very kinesthetic. People with dyslexia certainly aren't lazy, because a lot of us have had to work a lot harder to get where we are, because we've had to overcome things that we aren't so good at. It's harder for a non-dyslexic person to decode the written word or text, a skill which most people would normally take for granted. So those are just a quick visual of the brain differences there, okay? Dyslexic brain, non-dyslexic, so it's all kind of lumped together. I'm also disadvantaged in the sense that I'm also left-handed. Right, so why consider dyslexia as a learning difference? Because dyslexic profiles. Okay, we're going to show you some of those in a moment. They spend most of the time in the classroom, like we do. Thinking of dyslexia as a learning difference can be helpful. And the reason that it can be helpful is because you're then including, which is inclusion, every child matters, and following on all of those traits as well, you're including everybody. So it's not really, as I'm saying, differentiation, learning, pupil strengths and opportunities. The focus then shifts to how all lessons should be planned and should be taught. Emphasis is on looking for what is right in the classroom in order to enhance the effectiveness of learning. So it's also, I've done it deliberately, this PowerPoint is done in those multicolours, okay? It's not just black on white, it's done sectioned with lots of different colours, which actually helps me, not just people that are dyslexic like I am, but also it's chunking things and sequencing for these guys too. And also for, hold on a minute, sorry, for all of these elements. So we've got dyscalculia, dyspraxia, dyslexics, people with specific learning difficulties also can be intellectually gifted. We've got autism spectrum disorder, ASD, Asperger's, ADHD. All of those students, or all of those from that, on that spectrum, will be supported and helped by having more differentiation, more coloured, more chunking within the lesson plan. So it's, in a sense, much more multisensory. Strengths and talents, I'm going to say, really, of people who are on that spectrum have potentially, possibly greater creative skills, maybe have problem with solving. Think more laterally and can make unexpected connections. I can relate to that one. Seeing the big picture, dyslexic people also have the ability to do. Good visual skills, linking in 3D, verbal skills and good social skills. Okay, and this is the best way to jigsaw your lesson. Okay, so it's chunked. So you've got your starter with something that is maybe kinesthetic and active. You have your development where maybe there's that little bit of reading that needs to be done, and then you have another activity. Also, if you're putting out sections or asking students to read or chunk something from a board, so maybe if you know that on your register you've got particular students who are not so fast in their processing but still achieving 6 A's or 7 C's, but have that issue with the processing and being able to remember, then print things out in chunked comic songs for them on different coloured papers as well. So sequencing, cumulative, multisensory and repetitive. So make things not just sitting there looking at the board. 3 areas of difference rather than difficulty maybe: phonological, verbal processing speed. Now when a student is highlighted to us now, we can pick them up in year 7 because there's on the CAT scores there's a range of 15, is it so? About 15 between the reading and the writing. So if there's a count of difference of 15, that would normally present a potentially classic dyslexic student. So that would be the difference there, sorry. Okay. So if a student is raised by a teacher to us because they're a little bit worried that maybe they're not making the same progress as their peers within the same group, then it's Mr. Foster, put down for a screening, maybe come to me or maybe go to Mr. Lippert. This is a questionnaire that I would put before a student first of all, and I've got quite a number of these students that I've seen this year. So I just get them to fill that in, and it's asking them personal, do you find ICT tasks difficult? Have you been offered colour overlays? Do you find copying from the board difficult? Yes, no, and their comment. And from that you can kind of make a profile of your student. After which, this is what we do. We have our own last screening program here, and you cannot see it very large, but it focuses on 8 areas of the brain. So we've got visual memory, which is the first one there, and as you can see, there's 2 very different students. Okay, so they're raised to us because of something that they're a little bit concerned about with their teacher, and then we can screen them and we can get a very specific profile. So verbal memory, auditory memory, can't remember what that one was, segments of putting words into places, spelling, reading. This one here at the end is putting pieces of jigsaw together, so it's like a spatial awareness. So there are 8 programs on the computer. Put the headphones on, they can hear or they can read, they're go into their own zone, and they complete those tasks. After which we can then print it out, and as you can see, the student really is not dyslexic. specific at all. Probably more in the gifted and talented in some areas. Whereas this profile is clearly not so bad on the reading and the spelling, as you can see. It's kind of up there with the edge, but it has no memory. Okay, so you put something on the board and you're saying to the class, right, okay, copy that down. That student's actually, okay, right, they've forgotten it. Okay, by the time they've looked at the board and looked down, they cannot remember, so their pace is an awful lot slower, which can then lead to, obviously, to anxieties, to stress, because they can't remember. Okay, and the teacher shrugged off the board and it's gone. All right, so all of these things, once we screened a student, we then can work with that student, work with the teachers, and work on strategies that are going to help improve things, whether we take them out for intervention or whether we then email teachers, which we do, and make suggestions possibly of things that could be slightly altered, slightly changed, or strategies that would help the student, but not necessarily just the student, but lots of students within the classroom. Okay? I think that was all I wanted to say, wasn't it, really? That was another one that we did. Important information also, I mean, I could go on for quite a long time if you so chose to, but we felt that going to here was sufficient.
Yeah, what else do we need from departments?
Right, okay. Right.
For the evidence for the board?
Aaron Connor, is it Aaron Connor? Aaron Connor has been absolutely amazing. Now the TRC is made up with predominantly science, IT, and resistant materials, and they pick those. Is it strange that they're all kinesthetic? But they have been absolutely amazing in contributing to us, to my file, for differentiated and dyslexia profile resources, to the point where Connor, in actual fact, has made this phenomenal resource for verbal feedback. And it is actually something that I feel that at some point would be really good to do partial inset on, because he's sent it to me as a presentation. He does verbal feedback, so he has students' work, he does verbal feedback on it and then links it personally to a student. They can then go look at their work back on their own computer with headphones, and they can hear his comments. Rather than us, like we do, writing on there, and sometimes the students can't even read it, so we have to go over and reinforce that. They've got full verbal feedback through headphones on that piece of work that's in front of them, and ways to improve it as well. So they can start it. It's just an amazing piece of technology, which would be fantastic to have within the school. What Aaron has also done, and he emailed us both yesterday on this as well, is that he has particular spreadsheets. He looks at all of his classes, he looks at the register, he spreadsheets each and every one and has a target for everyone under whatever they're on SEN for. So he colour codes them as well. Was that all that he said? Sorry, resistant materials have been brilliant as well. They've also done some wonderful health and safety PowerPoints, which they can then cascade back to their classes, which have also multicoloured, got speech bubbles in it. It's not boring, sort of government stuff. They've made it really funky, used students as well within that. And science too. Yeah, science are absolutely brilliant with their keywords, multicoloured. They have certain things going on within their PowerPoints too. No, they're working really, really well as well. But that's it. And for us to achieve whole school, we need things from math. We need things from history, geography, languages. I mean, I can't submit it. We need to submit it in the autumn term. Okay, we've got the chance to do that, but I do not have the evidence to cover all bases. So I could put in too much really for resistant materials and also for science and RT, but there's nothing else to show evidence for other areas within the school, which is a shame, you know, and I don't know what else to say really.
So you will make contact with those departments and let
I already have, but I can send out another generic email, please. That would be great. But I mean, the practice seems really good. When I talk to guys and I'm in here and you know, helping support or making ideas and suggesting the different colours and the coloured overlays and things that we've been really promoting, that seems to have quite a good. And when people and staff come to me about them, that's also really good because the HLTAs for our English department are really keen too on differentiation, and they're pushing that as well for us. But it's actually having the whole school together yet again to be able to tell everybody, or ask everybody just to show some sort of example of resource that they've used that has been differentiated. We call it dyslexia, but it's not, it's inclusion really. And it's not a difficulty either, it's a difference. And we have found, haven't we, that the strategies that we have used, either in our small groups or one-to-one, have impacted well, because I follow up. Once I've worked with a student for a little while, I'll then do a round robin for staff views, and those staff views have all been positive, which means then I can speak to parents, speak to students, and they're chuffed that they've actually improved. So it has a complete knock-on effect. So this is useful and has a place within the school.
Might be an idea to get people in your group, your TLC, and identify them and ask them to go and work alongside a colleague in those departments where you've got gaps. So, you know, English will be covered, I guess, through Claudia and HLTA work.
And Nikki.
And Nikki. And then if you thought about maybe a couple of other areas that you wanted to target, just get perhaps Aaron and Laura or whoever you're working with to go and speak to an identified colleague in each department, because
We'd love to have some math stuff, because a lot of our dyslexic students also have problems with numbers. I can't do numbers personally, so I can relate to that, and I can't support them in that, because I can't do it either. So to have some differentiated resources or some inclusive resources to support students with math would be great. Languages too. Languages would be great to have some.
There's lots of differentiated materials in maths.
It's just getting it out there and getting people to know. I'm sure that there's good practice right across the school, but it's actually just pulling it in so that I can pop it in the folder.
Yeah.
Really.
Thank you very
Lovely.
much, Debbie.
Thank
Thank you.